Good afternoon. This is the meeting, the May 2nd meeting of the Bylaw Review Advisory Committee. This meeting is being recorded for the town website and for future use. And today we have Janine Domina as a member, Jonathan J., and Francine Tishman. So I'll call the meeting to order, and we'll begin at 2:12. Let me check that. 2:11, that's a correction. And we'll start with the public comments section and invite Christine Fowles, who came in to talk with us today.
Giving me a couple of minutes. I think I've met everybody, but I'm Chris Fowles from 11 Gun Road, and I am running for the open seat on the select board. And so, as part of my homework, getting ready for that idea and the election to be held soon, I'm going around and trying to attend several meetings and get to know the boards and the committees that are meeting in town and the kinds of issues, especially that you all are working on. There's been quite a variety of things going on. I know the activity's been very, very busy, and certainly the bylaws one cannot be an easy one to tackle. Two things just about me. I grew up here in Southampton. I grew up on a farm in Southampton and had moved away to work in Africa for a long time with the Peace Corps and then with a government foundation that was doing community development and ag work in Africa. And so I've spent a long time back and forth and finally have retired and come back home to Southampton. So as part of the Master Plan Implementation Committee, I started to get more and more interested and involved in what was going on in town and the future direction of town. And I think the bylaws are certainly the guideposts for any kind of development as we go forward. And I would imagine that several of them have been not updated in a while. And so I really applaud the work that you're trying to do. And just from my point of view, as I've gone around, there's two things that I would just like to add. One is that I've run into actually a fair number of homeowners that have wondered if there is a chicken bylaw, because we are now a right-to-farm community, and lots of people would like chickens in their backyards, and a couple of comments that I've heard at least is like, well, we had chickens, but our neighbor complained, and so we had to get rid of them. So that's been a little bit of a sore point, I gather, with some people in town. But then also, as I'm sort of watching what's going on next door in Easthampton, I know you all have been working on the marijuana bylaw, which has been before the town, and that's great. And I'm just hoping that we aren't missing the boat by not being able to attract new businesses into town, such as those. I see that in today's paper anyway, Easthampton managed to get some $54,000 or $58,000 revenue from their one shop in Easthampton for the last quarter, which is an amazing amount. Right. And there are 4 other such entities applying to locate in Easthampton. Right. So it's like, how could we possibly drag them 2 miles south to Southampton, because I think Westfield is setting up one too. So we're kind of like in between, and our bylaws allow for it now, so it'd be nice if we could try to think about ways to attract them. It may be too late, but I'm just hoping that we can find things like that that would be creative to get more businesses going and get the economic development we need in town, which we're fairly limited with. So thank you for your time, and I'll just sit in for a while.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And my understanding of Easthampton supposedly is that they agreed to issue like 12 licenses for marijuana dispensaries. I just don't want us to be the same as the bike path, that we're the only place between Westfield and and Easthampton and Northampton. But we just need someone to apply. I mean, the fact that the bylaws have passed, there's an encouragement and incentive for anybody who would like to do business here.
Maybe people don't realize that they've passed, but those that are interested in setting it up, I don't know.
Right. Yeah. Anyway, so about our work, Janine's done another great job putting us together and keeping us on track with the little packet that she left.
Oh, yes.
For us to review what would be the minutes of our last meeting. So if you take a quick look at that. whenever someone's ready, a motion for approval.
So,
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, just one thing here.
Okay.
On the local, Article 7. Not sure what I wrote here. I thought we were going to say on the title that was the title, except where we talked about and rather than or permits. Well, you know what? I did write or. Okay, I guess that's what we decided. Yeah. I wonder if it makes more sense to say and, since we're covering both.
I would.
I know in many places we say or for certain things.
I would think it would. I'm okay with and.
either one is fine. It's not.
Because you
I
don't
would-
have to choose between one or the other.
Yeah.
It's-
Well, it doesn't change what we decided on the
Right.
bylaws, but
Right.
I mean on the minutes, I mean what's in the minutes. But I would just suggest we spot local licenses and permits
So the
and so
minutes,
forth.
the
Yeah.
minutes, however, are correct as they stand. But going forward on the actual bylaw, we will change from or to and. So, do we have all in favor of accepting the minutes?
All in favor? I mean, I'm in favor.
Okay? Aye. 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 Okay.
Okay, so
There's
you
no
want
one to
me
be
to change?
opposed. No, the minutes can stay
Nothing
as
minutes.
they were, because
Okay.
that was the discussion.
Yeah, I
But
would just
the
suggest
document
that,
itself.
yeah, that we
Okay.
change the
The
order
document
and
itself
in the
would be
title
yes.
there.
Fine.
Okay.
Okay, good. Thank you. All right, this next item, follow-up on the town. I have not heard from Ed. I sent him to him again. I don't know if he's just buried
Sure.
with the town meeting and the budget and everything, but when I've seen him, I've not approached him about it. I just did it through email, so when I leave today, I'll go down and remind him, but I wouldn't expect anything much before next week until after the town meeting is over. And I'm assuming that's what the holdup is. Okay.
Still pending.
All right, then, item 5, continue work on select board. Would be our first, review the changes, and thank you again, Janine, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you doing this. So what you have there is the latest version representing our conversation on the select board.
Just a grammatical thing. On the bylaws, and we're all going to revert, I think, at times, but where it says Massachusetts general law or town bylaws.
Where?
I'm sorry, section 3, next to last line of that section.
Okay.
Okay.
So capitalize the B and the L in bylaws.
Okay,
I
if I
think,
could
if
just...
that's what we're going with for.
Okay, I did go on to the Mass General laws to see how they did bylaws.
Yeah.
And they did not capitalize
Yeah.
bylaws.
Yeah, the thing is that this is our bylaws, so it's not talking about bylaws of any town, which is the
Okay.
Mass General laws are talking about, can apply to any, so I think we should, and I think it just looks better, I mean, we're elevating the status by capitalizing it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
it's a little thing, but I think I've seen many places where the town does capitalize it, and it's been in the bylaws in different places before, so.
Okay.
I mean, this is one of the things we can clean up, obviously, when we're through with this
Right.
draft.
Yeah.
right, okay.
The same thing in section 4 of the last line.
Yeah.
But then again, this gets
No,
confusing.
this is
Some-
general,
yeah.
because you're just saying
Yeah.
provided by law or by these bylaws.
Huh? I'm sorry.
No,
Yeah.
I know why you capitalize
Oh.
bylaws above, because we're referencing the town bylaws. These are the same thing, so
However, I just bring it up because I think someone's gonna bring it up, consistency at some point. So however we want to do it, I would be consistent. I think we probably want to capitalize it in most instances, at least the B. I don't know about the L, how that's usually done. You know, I've seen it both ways.
I've seen it
And-
all different ways.
Yeah, so it's just some, we don't have to worry about it now.
We'll
My
get to the
suggestion
end
is
and
that
we'll do
we'll,
our search and find, and we'll make all the changes all at once to make consistency
Okay.
on everything.
But going forward,
Yeah.
I'll do that.
B and L, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Or whomever is doing the section, because he
Okay.
did a section, I did a section, you did a section, so just keep it in mind, okay? It's like what it is. You're welcome to take a look at the package. I mean, she
Would you like
does,
to?
she does have a background in some policy writing. So just take a look, and that would bring you up to speed a little bit in terms of what you're working on.
I would just, in section 8, I would put a comma before the accept, in the second line, between permits and accept. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Oh, and were we going to put, before in section 7, or is it 8, section 8, and all other licenses and permits, were we going to say all other? Oh,
Section 7?
yeah, but,
Are you looking at your notes from,
well,
We're doing select.
I've got two conflicting things in my notes.
oh, yes, but we
Where
were
am I
going
looking?
back and forth between the reference to licenses and permits as it applies to the
Yeah.
select board and what the section on
Oh, okay.
licenses
see.
and permits said, and that's
Yeah.
where we were going.
Okay. It seems to me that this reads well. Yeah, I just had, I think we talked about doing one way once, and then we changed that, and I had both still in, so that's where I was being confused. This looks good.
Because that's the other thing, I mean, when we get to it, hopefully, we'll get some consistency in reference, in how we're referencing. But this one is pretty general, this is much more
I
specific.
think this catches it all that we talked about. Thanks.
I'm okay with this, I mean, with a couple of minor changes. But what I would like to do is, and when we get to it, is I'd like to start with town meeting in the order of presentation in the bylaws. Start with town meeting, then select board, then, finance committee, or however else you want to go with it. But, to have the select board as the third article and have finance as the second article just doesn't make sense out of order to me in terms of responsibility.
Right. But that's down the road.
That's down the road.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so Article 3, do you want to vote to?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
So with the changes that were made in terms of capitalizing the B and the L do we have?
Oh, and the
bylaws?
comma in section 8 before accept, yeah.
And a comma in section 8 between permits and accept. Do I have a motion that with those corrections to accept this draft of the select board section of the bylaws?
So moved.
Janine?
I second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Good.
So this will not be brought back. This is done.
This is done.
Okay.
So I'm going to put that on it in today's date.
May 2nd.
It's just where do all of these changes and changes, okay. Now, the next section we're going to then would be the section on the town clerk, and I don't think anybody's going to argue with you, Janine.
I don't know.
Okay? As having done it, you know. So that would be section, right now, the current section 4.
Should we hyphenate 3-year term? 3-year?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
And this is minor, but I always put S/HE instead of he, she.
What do you do?
Capital S/HE, so it's she, he, you know?
Oh, okay.
It's like a shorthand version of
Okay.
that.
When we get to the third paragraph, I have a suggestion.
Okay.
So again, it's just, I think, a grammatical thing, so it's less confusing, not changing, I think, any of the wording. The clerk directs the preparation of ballots, polling places, voting equipment, and voting list. After you see the,
Yep.
so I put add and between voting equipment and voting list. And then I would put a semicolon after list, just so it's less confusing since we already have several commas. Because now we're going with another verb.
Right.
The semicolon administers campaign finance laws, semicolon, certifies nomination papers and initiative petitions, semicolon, and serves on the board of registrars.
Okay, so it would be, and comma, right? And comma serves on the board of registrars.
And no, I would do before and, after initiative petitions, another semicolon.
Right, and then and comma
Oh, I don't think you
serves on, no?
need a comma.
Okay.
No, because it's just kind of the last
All
thing in the phrase in this.
That works.
What is the board of registrars?
Well, that was something I added to my list of, and I hadn't brought it up
Yeah.
to the group yet.
Oh.
My
Okay.
list of things that need to be described in this document.
Okay.
The board of registrars and what they do.
The board of registrars, okay, so it is a town
Yes.
board.
Yeah,
Okay.
right? It's the body that,
It's required by law. And one of the major things for the Board of Registrars is they have to sign nomination papers. They have to agree that, verify that everyone's signatures on nomination papers or anything like that. They just have to verify that they are a legal voter in town.
And that they have the required number of signatures and all of that.
So that is for any time that there's a vote?
Yeah.
Like a town meeting or at...
Oh, it could be on the federal level, state, town.
And do they do it at is the board like at the polling place? Or do they do it before?
No.
They just certify the, what do you call the eligibility list or whatever the list of voters?
Voter.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, whether
Registered
somebody's
voters.
running for office or somebody who's submitting a petition for a
Yeah,
town warrant.
there's a
required
lot
signatures,
of,
yeah.
all kinds of petitions and everything. And they also have a very important part. If there is a recall for an election, they would be the ones.
Okay.
Wow.
No. So there will be other places that we can address that, right? I don't know if you have anything in mind, but in different places in the bylaws where it talks about elections, maybe it would be one place to talk about what the Board of Registrars does.
Yes,
with respect to that.
we'll do a section specifically on that because it's an elected position, right?
Registrars?
No, they're appointed.
The town clerk has to, there's guidelines that the town clerk selects them from, and you have to have the same amount of Democrats, the major parties, and Republicans, and different things like that. So,
And they also test the voting machines or observe.
not the registrars.
No, that's right, it's the Democratic and the Republican chairs that do that. Yeah. See, you know. So that's.
Yeah, in the fourth paragraph, if that's where we are, what if we take within 48 hours and put it after or cause to be notified, comma? So it would say the clerk shall notify or cause, comma, or cause to be notified, comma, within 48 hours any elected persons to any town office.
Okay.
I mean, you could even put within 48 hours of the very, within 48 hours of what?
Well, don't they have to, here, if someone is nominated at the caucus, they also have to confirm that within 48 hours?
Right, because you have to accept a nomination. So say at the caucus, if someone's nominated, the town clerk has to approach that person, contact that person within the 48 hours.
But you don't have to be nominated in the caucus to run, right?
No.
You can just declare.
No, but if someone nominates, say if someone nominates you, you have to, the town clerk has to reach out and you have to accept the nomination within.
Okay, and so is that, so is this sentence then, the 48 hours applies to contacting someone who has been nominated?
And elected.
Or elected.
And or
Or-
elected.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay, so I'm wondering if we can keep that idea that you have there and just rewrite it somewhat, move some things around and add the word nominated somewhere?
Can we just?
And also, we're saying within 48 hours of what?
Right.
So
well,
something...
from the time that they're,
Yeah, so I think that would be good. What if we said something like, and then we can come back and refine it, but I'm just thinking, the clerk shall notify, comma, or cause to be notified, any persons, any,
Persons elected to, or nominated for or elected to any town office.
nominated for or elected to, any persons nominated for or elected to any town office within 48 hours of being nominated or elected, comma, is relevant, something like that? We can
it's a little repetitive, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, yeah, but you're saying within 48 hours of what?
All right, if we said within 48 hours of any town caucus or any nominating caucus or town election, how's that? Is that?
But you still say within 48 hours of what?
Right. But you're saying within 48 hours of what? It's within 48 hours of the town caucus, nominating caucus, and 48 hours within the town.
Okay, but we're still going to, but we have to define the persons that they're notifying. So how would we say that? Any persons nominated or elected to any town office within 48 hours of, and then the language you just suggested, Francine, of the nominating caucus or
Or town election.
Okay, you'll have to repeat that.
I think we have to rework that. It's because we're trying to get a lot into one sentence.
Yeah. So the clerk shall notify, comma, or cause to be notified, comma, any persons nominated for or to,
Or elected to.
or elected to, yes.
Nominated.
For,
Or.
or elected to any town office
Within 48 hours
within 48 hours of,
of
and you were suggesting the nominating caucus?
I wouldn't
Why don't you have to
specifically,
say it again?
I wouldn't specifically single out the caucus and the election, because what if there's, who knows?
Okay.
You know,
What do you want to
I
say,
would-
being nominated, of being nominated or elected?
Yeah,
Does that make sense? And then that covers, should
Okay.
cover everything?
the clerk shall notify, comma, or cause to be notified,
Comma.
comma,
Any persons nominated for or elected to any town office within 48 hours of being nominated
Or elected.
or elected. Janine, does that cover all the
Yep.
situations that you can foresee?
yes.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so the
Okay.
town clerk shall notify or cause to be notified any person nominated for or elected to a person, not any person, persons nominated for or elected to any town office within 48 hours of being nominated or elected. That's it? Okay.
All right.
Okay. If you want to, I mean, I know that you already have this, but if you want me to do this one, I will.
No, I'm
Okay.
fine with that. I
Okay.
have it on the computer.
Okay, all right,
So-
fine.
Yeah, and then we can also maybe introduce each paragraph, if we're going to do the paragraphs this way, section 1, section 2, and so forth, as we've been doing,
Yes,
using abbreviation per section.
okay. Well, that's a, oh, we need to move around. There we go. Wave.
Oh.
Wave at the camera. People who watch this are thinking, hello.
All of a sudden, to the wave.
Okay, yes. Okay. He, she administers the oath of office to all elected and appointed members of local committees and boards and informs all elected and appointed officials of the state open meeting and conflict of interest laws. You also make certain that they have in their possession, that they will have signed, there are required documents that people have to sign, right? That they received?
Such as this, that's the state, the open meeting law and the
And-
conflict
and
of
covenant.
interest. Yeah.
We don't need to put that in there.
You don't want this in there?
No, I'm saying we don't need to put in the fact that you physically give them a copy of the open meeting law and the conflict of interest and that they have to sign for both. That's too much more detail than we need to
Yeah.
I
have.
Yeah.
think so, because I assume it's more or less required by state
state.
law that you do that and that you
Okay.
fill out certain forms.
You wanted to say something,
I was
Chris?
going to add, at least in my case for the master plan, I also had to prove that I had followed the online ethics course.
That
And I had to
would,
go back to.
Oh,
that would be part of the conflict of interest.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
And that, I mean, are we having a section on candidates? I mean, because that brings up another point in terms of,
Do the candidates have to fill that out before? they
well,
have to do
no,
it
in
before
terms
they
of
run,
requirements
or-
for candidates. Do we want?
For requirements for candidates,
No.
I wouldn't go there
Okay.
because when someone's elected,
That's when
It's
there are no requirements.
Okay, except that
Other
they
than
want.
they
Okay,
live in
All right.
a registered voter in town.
nothing about qualifications? No? Okay.
They don't have to be of sound mind and character. So,
I think you have to not be of sound mind character
There
to,
you
you
go.
know, that's how that works.
or at least character. But, so, do you want to say Sahi again? I mean, do you, is that how we're going to phrase?
If you're okay
do
with
it
that.
throughout? I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And just the last word, where we say conflict of interest laws. Laws, I guess, could probably be a lower case.
For
Law,
conflict
L.
of interest
What law,
laws.
well, in that phrase, laws, the L in laws could be lowercase, probably. Because the others
You
are.
think so? Because everything else is, because it's a state open meeting law and conflict of interest law. And it's all the others are
It probably doesn't
capitalized.
matter which way, but
I like this way.
with the capitalized? Okay.
It appears more official.
Website, does the town refer to it with a hyphen or breaks it down with a hyphen, or is it usually one word? The way that the town uses it in various things.
I always
So-
used it with a hyphen.
Okay. In this case, do we want to put at least 48 hours after meeting? Wait, I'm
here.
sorry. Ignore what I just said, let me
Yeah, 'cause
rephrase
it's
it.
prior to the
At
meeting.
least 48 hours prior to the meeting, and then say, comma, excluding weekends and holidays. Maybe a little less confusing.
Okay. Excluding weekends and holidays, and then leave it there, okay.
Yeah, so at least 48
Yeah.
hours prior to the meeting, comma, excluding.
Okay.
You want bylaws in capitalized also. The clerk maintains records of adopted regulations, bylaws.
Well, here it seems more general than it does when you say town bylaws. But
But we can,
I want to be consistent, so what do you say?
You know, it's just, I think we all might answer it differently depending on what page we're on and what day it is.
right,
Okay,
I don't know. I think it's just something to think about as we go through the rest of these, and we'll
Okay.
see all the varieties and meanings, and then we can decide
okay.
okay.
later. Are there any vital records besides births, marriages, and deaths?
That is what vital records are.
Just those three things?
Yeah.
licenses.
Last one.
It's here.
Yeah, this is one of the places where,
It's the very last.
I see, I didn't get down that far.
this is one of the places where it's mentioned or we're thinking about adding it. I mean, the licenses, it's, as we talked about before, it's in several different places, bylaws, different types of licenses. So the town clerk issues those particular licenses, but doesn't issue all licenses, right, and permits.
Right.
But, so if someone wants a dog license, I guess the bylaws and the select board, they pretty much set the rules, and then the town clerk just carries it out. I mean, people come and say, I'm applying for this, and
A lot of it is Mass General Law.
the what?
Mass General Law.
That the town clerk is responsible for these particular types of licenses?
Oh, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would just say, without knowing all the bylaws, but knowing that it talks about various licenses, permits in different places, it just seems, and I think we may have mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, that it always just seems out of place. And maybe, but if this is the only types of licenses and permits that the town clerk is responsible for, then I guess it makes sense to put it here.
So the way we talked about having those scheduled attachments, where if things change, we don't have to change the bylaw, you just change that permit list or that license list.
Right, and I had mentioned previously that I believe someone had already done that. So, you
Okay.
know, yeah.
It doesn't say any, I'm not missing it, am I? Anything about the census? Or the town clerk is responsible for it?
Really?
Are you? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm just trying to look and see if it's in here, if I missed it. I don't.
So what is the,
I would put it pretty far up front.
It's in number 3.
Registration, absentee ballot, receives polling place election law connected.
Last sentence.
What's that?
The last sentence of section 3 talks about the census.
It does. There you
I was
go.
gonna say.
Thank you. That's why I said if I missed it, yes. Okay. The annual town center prepares street list of residents, yes.
Okay.
What's a flammable license?
Cumbies has one, the big flammable tanks, gas tanks. The
they're
gas
referred to as
station down
flammable
there.
licenses?
Okay.
Yep.
But are dog licenses, they're covered somewhere else in the bylaws too, aren't they? There's,
Well, we're gonna have a
Dogs.
whole
Yeah, we're gonna
dogs
redo that.
section.
Which will say that they have to be licensed, yes. But who issues the licenses belongs under here.
well, we do have, this is interesting, Article 15, I don't know whether this was, I think this is the existing one. It does address dog licenses, at least in section 5.
Yes. But
And flammable raffle and you don't, I guess, and I didn't bring my copy of that itemization that I'd done on the, on where different types of licenses and permits are addressed in the bylaws now, which was at least about 11 or 12 different articles. So I don't know about the flammable raffle and bazaar, whether they're mentioned.
didn't print a copy.
No.
They might be covered in other ones, but what about things like tag sale permits, park permits?
We don't have tag sale permits at this time.
That,
Should we think about that?
yes.
There is something in the existing bylaws, I think, right? And we were questioning,
Yeah. I think Lucy raised the issue, I don't know if she raised it here or one time we were talking, but looking for additional sources of revenue would be tag sale permits. She said people have called new to town and asked about hunting and fishing licenses, which we don't have. And what other possibility is there? I mean, while we're going for it. Hunting, fishing, tag.
We probably get like 3 or 4 people in a year looking for fishing and hunting licenses. It's not a big,
Right, but
And
if
I
it was,
think the
if it was
program-
required,
but
then
it's on the,
everybody
but it's on
who
the
would hunt would have
website,
to
right?
get a license.
I think that you had prepared, Lucy had prepared this, what's on the town's website for the responsibilities of the town clerk, and I think it says the office issues state licenses and permits, including marriage, dog, and fishing, hunting, and trapping.
could I say that?
Yeah.
What is that?
This is just some of those, yeah, I don't know whether
Oh,
this is
that was from
Other
another,
town.
Oh, another town.
Right.
Okay.
yeah, yeah. This was on the town's website, and that's where I got a lot of this.
see. Oh, the
And
other-
then I added to it.
But is this town, this website, or another town?
This is on our town's
Okay.
website, which I found was incorrect.
Okay.
And that's why I made those changes.
Well, here's my suggestion. I mean, that we can revisit all the licenses issues when we've gone through and just have a better idea of just how things in the existing bylaws fit together. I'm just concerned because it gets confusing. I'm confused by the licenses being in different places in the bylaws, which I'm not saying is a bad idea.
Okay.
But when we start naming some types of licenses as part of a general responsibility and not listing them all, I'd kind of like to have a better idea of whether we're leaving something out. In other words, are the other licenses and permits pretty well covered by somewhere
Well,
else?
like there are burn permits, but those come from the fire department. And
Which,
then they're
if we
they're
did
trash. Yeah.
that, if we did what we had talked about, I strongly feel that it belongs here. And the select board, I think we said that,
Liquor licenses and things.
right.
Yeah.
I really think it's a big part of these responsibilities. And having that additional licensing. Okay, I'd like some type of a license. Where do I go for it? And that's where they would, but these are part of the
Okay. Are there-
jobs.
Are there other licenses too that are issued by the town clerk? Rather than just say such as, can we just name all of them? That the town, that office is responsible for?
Oh, here it says such as dog license.
Right, I was just trying to combine,
No.
to include these other licenses. We can word it whichever
Yeah.
way you prefer.
The office also licenses dogs and flammable, also issues list. Dog licenses and flammable licenses, that's fine.
And then why don't we just say and raffle and bazaar permits? Right.
Yep. And raffle and bazaar
Yeah,
permits.
so where would say that the office issues dog licenses, a flammable license, and raffle and bazaar permits?
Yeah, because 2 are licenses and 2 are permits. And then should, in anywhere in this, I mean, where we're mentioning licensing that obviously has a fee attached to it, whether we're talking about the select board or the town clerk, should we put in parentheses somewhere on the bottom of, at the end of each of those sections, see attached schedule for fees or something like that?
We could tie it in somehow.
So,
Yeah, and will we have in that schedule, will we say that these are, the schedule is not part of the bylaws, but it's attached for information purposes?
Right.
Yeah. that
Yeah,
sounds good.
so no one thinks that it has to be approved at a town meeting each time. Maybe it's a
yeah, that's where
bylaw.
we're going with that, yes.
And I would also suggest that Lucy takes a look at this.
Yes.
There may be something she'd like to add.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure.
Whatever.
And, yeah, it probably doesn't make any difference, but I probably would not say see attached sketch, because then we'll be saying it quite a few times. And I don't want people to think that, if we state it here without the disclaimer, that people think that it's a part of the bylaws.
Okay. But somewhere in the narrative of each of them, we need to reference that there's a wasp in here. That, shouldn't we reference that, in fact, there is a schedule of fees associated with all the licenses and permits?
Well, let me ask you this. For the bylaws, are we going to have a table of contents at
It
the
would be a-
beginning?
yeah.
And then why not at the bottom, for any attachments?
Appendices, yeah.
And then with a note, yeah. So say what that is, and then say, note, these are not a part by, but are appended here for informational purposes.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay.
That will work.
And then when you see it in one place, and then you just know
Fine.
to read it that way.
Yeah, I think the table of contents makes sense. All right, now, so you're going to do this, 1, 2, okay? Is there any more discussion on the town clerk section of the bylaws?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
I think this is good. Thanks,
Okay,
Janine.
Welcome.
so then if you're both comfortable, do I have a motion to approve as amended in our discussion, the Article 4 town clerk?
I'm ready to make that motion, but let me just ask, because I just took a look at the existing bylaws. Janine, existing bylaws in section 3 says, town clerk shall not allow original paper documents of the town to be removed from the town clerk's office except as they remain in. Did you think that was not necessary? I'm not sure it is, but
I thought I had included it, but I probably didn't.
why is that?
Oh, it went right into the public records officer.
That's where it would belong, yes. What the town clerk shall, how did you say it, ensure?
Oh, it's in the existing bylaw.
Yeah,
right.
Although I'm not sure I'm reading it correctly, because this is the copy that the previous committee had marked up. Janine, where is it that says keeping all town records? In the one that you drew up, do we have that in there?
If I
Yeah.
didn't include it, it
thought I saw it.
belongs in it.
Yeah. it's in the
Christine,
current-
help? You helped the last time.
Well, it's in the current bylaws.
Says official keeper of
It
town
says here,
records.
the town clerk maintained records of adopted regulations, bylaws, oaths. Is that
Oh, I'm reading
sufficient?
from the wrong thing, yeah, okay. It is,
It doesn't,
where is that?
in paragraph 4, the last sentence of the one we're working on today.
Or do we want to say, and all other official town records? But I'm having trouble figuring out what the current bylaws say, because this has language typed in and stuff marked through by the previous committee, but it looks like it said, the town clerk shall keep and cause to be permanently, I don't know. This is not clear. Does anyone have a clean copy of the current bylaws? I know that Lucy carries around one when she comes.
I have so many packages here.
Yeah.
Let me see. This is the, that's not it.
Okay, I added the notify within 48 hours in here. And shall retain all official town records, that's in here.
Where is that?
There's a second section on
Yeah.
this one of the bylaws that
Okay.
we're working off of.
Oh, but where is it in what you have drawn? Did you say it was in what you drew up? Something like that?
Well,
We don't have all records.
it's the official keeper of town records, but it doesn't include, right, I
So how does that?
didn't put
yeah.
those two in.
Well, how does that second section read in the current bylaws? In the existing bylaws?
I
That's
don't
what you're reading
have a
from?
copy.
Oh,
This is
looking-
our working copy.
oh, that's what the changes from before? Okay, from the previous committee.
Right.
Yes, that's what, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I just can't tell how it exists currently in the bylaws.
I think
The
it
second
has like
paragraph.
3 sentences.
Right. yeah,
And
if
it's
I'm
the
looking
ones
at it.
that are not
Right.
underlined.
Yeah, but something doesn't read right in that second, in the way they marked it up. Something is missing.
About
can't-
town records.
Because if I take up everything before they marked it up, here's what I get.
Okay,
The town clerk shall keep and cause to be permanently one or more files of the town reports. So something to be permanently.
Yeah, I know, and the
Yeah.
word is left out.
yeah.
Yeah, the town
Yeah.
clerk shall.
And then there may be
cause to
other- yeah.
permanently, it should permanently retain, cause to be permanently retained. Oh, but this is very awkward language,
Yeah, it is.
yeah.
Well, but
But what his point is, and if that's the fact, it should be in the bylaws, because people will want, we've had some discussion about people wanting to take original documents out of the building, and that's not, so we need to have that in.
Yes, we do.
Yeah,
So the town clerk shall,
well, okay, so we don't have a copy of the existing bylaws as they are
yeah,
on the
this is
website.
it. I mean, this is as far as what the changes, I mean, it was these 3 sentences.
Oh, but,
So the town clerk shall not allow original paper or documents of the town to be taken from the town, it says from this office, except
Right.
as they remain in his custody or by authority of law.
right, but then on the one before that,
The town clerk shall keep and cause to be permanently, and I'm sorry.
yeah, I think
know,
it will
We're still
help.
looking for
I get
that word.
Because one of the things we can do is put those 2 sentences together with any changes we want to make, because one kind of follows the other,
The same
right?
one you have, yes.
Huh?
Yeah. So, are you able to access that online on your phone? Or
But it, yeah, my version here, yeah.
there's just something missing, that's all. I kind of like to start with that and then see.
And are we going to make any I mean, I know we said we were okay with it, but I'm looking at something else. Are we going to have anything in here about the availability of town records online? Are we going to mention that in here? And is that would be the responsibility of the town clerk if we do that?
Town records such as,
I don't know.
what records?
Election results, most recent census, I mean, those kinds of records.
You don't want to put census on.
Not just, okay, not individual names, but
Are those decisions that can be made from time to time by whoever the responsible parties are considered to be, whether it's town meeting, or through a bylaw amendment, or through the select board action, as to determining what, or within the prerogative of the town administrator and town clerk. I don't know if I mean, is it, I'm just thinking out loud, is it necessary to provide for that in the bylaws? Is that something that can just be taken care of with an individual's discretion or various entities' discretion?
Well, as far as a lot of the information, it's all included in town meeting minutes, election minutes, which is all online.
okay.
But
So,
from time to time, it's going to change as to what, right? As to what
But
people.
any of the records, other records that you maintain, should they be available online, that you did maintain, which we just talked about? I guess not, I mean, what you're saying is true. I mean, it is all matter of record based on the minutes of wherever this business was transacted, so I guess,
right, but the town clerk is required to keep within their possessions all the town reports. And so, and the third section, that they can't allow the original documents to be removed. I mean, I don't think I included that, and it definitely needs to be in there.
yeah.
So,
Yeah. That could be the last sentence. I mean, written the way it was, the town clerk shall not allow original paper or documents of the town to be removed from the town clerk's office except as they remain in his or her custody.
Yeah, I don't know what that
by
means,
authority of
yeah.
law. That I don't
I
understand.
mean, it can leave the office if the clerk has it. I mean, to go to the copier or whatever, as long as it's in
Oh, I see what
his or
you're
her
Her
custody.
custody. Oh, so that's what that means. If you leave the actual physical
Clerk's office.
clerk's office and go down the hall to make a copy. Wow.
That would be my understanding.
Okay. Okay.
and that sometimes happens. You go down the hall
Oh, all the time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unless we get a copier, unless we get rich sometime and we get a copier in the town
Okay.
clerk's office.
So I'm just thinking about where to stick things. And I think we all agree that these two sentences should, whatever the sentence, I mean, we don't know what the first sentence is yet, but those two should follow, one should follow the other. So, and they have to do with what your records that are being retained. We now have an Article 4 that you've prepared, and I think it reads really nice here, but then if we're adding this, then we might want to move some things around. So I'm wondering whether this would be just an importance. It's pretty important. Would it be new section 3 to be inserted between what's now 2 and 3? That would have these two sentences. And then
it seems like we would need to fold into that new section the last sentence of what is now section 4. Because it says the clerk maintains records, I'm sorry, the next to last sentence, section 4, the clerk maintains records of adopted regulations, bylaws, oaths of office, resignations, and appointments, because those are other records. But those are official, I assume that all those things mentioned there in that sentence, what records are maintained, that those are official town records? So if they are, we could possibly say the town clerk shall retain all official town records, including, but not limited to, and then name the ones that are in that section that you've written, in section 4, that sentence, including records of adopted regulations, bylaws, and so forth. Would that make sense? And then
I think section 4 is more about election type things. I think it would probably make a lot of sense in the very first paragraph. The town clerk is an elected position with a 3-year term. As the keeper of the town seal, the official keeper of town records, and serves as the central information point for the town, period. And then I would add that information up here, and then move the public records officer. That could even go as another section. But because it, we're the keeper, the official keeper of town records, then you go into the record should not leave the office.
Right, that's where that would make sense.
right, but, and I think though, the section 4, that sentence that exists there now, about what records, some specific records are being maintained, it goes further than just elections.
Where do you,
The clerk maintains records of adopted regulations, bylaws, oaths of office, resignations and appointments, petitions, publications, budgets, meeting minutes, and financial statements. So I think that should go with, in some manner, with whatever we're saying about records. Let me ask you if this could be done. Could we, so we're not repetitive. Could, having something about records in one place and then somewhere else in this article. What if we, and just in concept, okay, if you can follow me, in section 1, take out the official keeper of town records and put that back in a section 2, or in a separate section 2 or section 3 that would say the town clerk is the keeper of is the official keeper of town records. He or she shall keep or shall permanently retain all official town records, including but not limited to, and talk about the ones that you have in that sentence in section 4, and can even add some if you think that's appropriate, that's really important. And then say, through the end of that new section, just talking about records, put in the sentence, the town clerk shall, or he or she shall not allow original paper or documents of the town to be removed from the town clerk's office except as they remain in his or her custody, or as required by, or by authority of law.
Which is in the current bylaws.
I need a roadmap now.
Okay,
I know,
but I'm just talking about concept.
conceptually.
So Janine, would you be comfortable taking out of section 1 one of the most important responsibilities of the office, which is the official keeper of town records, and put it in a section 2 or section 3, a new one, that would just address the records? It would start off by saying the town clerk is the official keeper of town records, and then would say that the clerk maintains records, maintains firmly retains all official town records, including but not limited to, and give those examples
that are in section 4, and then add the sentence about not allowing stuff to go out of the office. And then the idea is right there, but we have it high up because that seems to be one of the most important functions of the office, right?
It's all really important, if you ask me.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think it makes sense to,
I'd be glad to type up that section 2. And whoever is typing up all of town, what is it, Article 4?
Yes.
I mean, I'll tell you what, if you like, if you can send me, because you've got a copy of this, right? If you can just send me the, what you have electronically, then they'll be there for me to write on.
And then you'll make
To make
those
changes, and I can bring that to the
Okay.
next meeting. Is that
Yeah.
okay? I mean, but does the idea seem to make sense? The concept?
Yeah, it does, but I mean, this is so amorphous. Because, yeah, it's up front because it is an essential function of the position. But the examples of it are further down. So consolidating it and moving it up to the top, I think, makes sense. So we'll pull that out. Okay. Are you okay with it? Janine? Yeah?
sure. So I'm going to
Send
send
that
it
to
to
me,
you
yeah.
electronically.
Yeah, no.
But is there anything else that I should be aware that you want in this, that when I type it up or modify? Please.
No, I think,
But we need to withdraw that other motion since,
Oh,
or amend the amended amendments. This is a whole different discussion.
I would just suggest that we proceed as we were talking about, is not to vote on this yet, just because I think it got confusing. So if we could just visualize it, and then if someone thinks that it needs to be wordsmithed some more or something was left out,
Okay.
we can do that more easily.
So,
okay, so we're gonna bring it back
next meeting. So I'm going to move that, based on our discussion, that Jonathan write the next draft version of the town clerk section of the bylaws
Okay.
for consideration at our next meeting.
Yeah, I won't really be writing it, I will just
Okay.
prepare based on what everyone's,
Based on
or
discussion.
suggestion, yeah.
Yes. Do we have a second?
A second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. None of these are easy. It doesn't, okay. So these are the two. Thanks for doing that, Jonathan. So Janine said she had to leave early. Well, couldn't stay long, not early, you stayed long. That's okay. So I don't want to misrepresent that. So do we want to, you want to stay on to do the treasurer collector, or is this a good time for us to depart and just schedule another meeting?
I would
I
suggest
can say,
that
but it all depends on Janine, I think we should have.
We need- yeah.
you wouldn't have a
We
quorum
wouldn't have a
once I
quorum.
leave. So could I make a motion that everyone take Article 5 home with them, review it,
Yes.
and bring back your suggestions next week?
Okay. And so we'll do it. Can anyone think of
Do
a
you want a
better?
second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay, unanimous.
All in favor?
I'm in favor.
Aye.
Can anyone think of another way we should be working through this?
I would like to move a little bit
Faster.
quicker,
But-
just because I've been at it for so
Right.
long.
It's
And,
been going on for years.
Yeah, yeah. But how do we want to proceed with all of the articles that we have said that we have already done? Do we want to go through and add all the sections like we talked about? Do we, do we want to, I would like to, if we could take 2, 3, 4 articles and come back with feedback
Okay.
so that
Well,
we
that's how
don't
that's
look
how
at
we-
it.
Yeah, that's how we got to this one. We thought these were all done,
Right,
and now we're coming back with feedback, so we're making changes to the changes. So,
But I would tell you what is confusing me as I read these, and Article 6 is one of them. It's just, I'm finding it difficult to read, because we're reading from what was given to us by the previous committee, and I'm not quite sure what we're, even though it shows changes and additions, it doesn't always capture everything. And so I'm confused as to what's in the current bylaws. The current bylaws at least tells me what the town, felt was important at one time, or whether, what the Attorney General's office thought that we should have in the bylaws.
so you're talking about the section on general government.
As an example of that, that is just, I'm confused, going through it, I think. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Although it may be a little easier to read than the other one we're talking about, but just see what it says. I think, well, here's what, it would require more work for everyone, but I was going to say what one can do is, from online, also read the bylaws online for the articles that we're talking about and have it side by side, these changes. I mean, is there anything sacrosanct about what they did? I mean, I know they spent a lot of time, but how do we want to handle that? Because I wasn't involved the first couple of meetings you've had on this, so how are we approaching that? I mean, do we just consider what they had, or do we give it priority? I hate for the work
It's a
to be
good
in
question.
vain, but
right,
Yeah.
right. But to go along with what you're saying is like Article 6, a lot of that is included in others, in other articles, like Section 1 about the select board causing to temporarily close a street. That's under, we have that under select
select-
board.
oh, we did
Yeah.
put that in?
Yeah.
I thought
Okay.
we did, didn't we?
Well, it would be, I don't think
see
that's
it.
there.
Oh, we
It's not
didn't?
there,
No.
no. But should it be, or should it be under general government?
And what is general government? I mean,
I think
it's just it's like general stuff.
I think it describes how the town functions.
Except they lead off with a closing of streets.
I know. But then in the rest of it, it talks about the annual audit.
And then we have
Oh.
collectors of dealers.
Oh, there, I thought there was something somewhere
Yeah.
that dealt with, yeah.
About John Felix.
Huh? Well, no, this is,
Oh.
well, we've dealt with this before. We decided, I guess, not to include all of that in Section 3, that maybe we weren't going to use it at all, right? If I remember our discussion. In Section, what was Section 6, at the bottom of page 10.
Well,
That will have to be for another day, because I really,
Well, is there a town administrator provision in article?
I don't know. But one of the things we were going to do, and maybe this is where
There
it
is a-
fits in, we talked about doing an organization chart. And that would kind of describe, to me, like general government, this is how we're structured and this is how we function. And maybe some of these kinds of things would fit in that new section, not necessarily all of them, but some of them. And does that make sense?
And then others go into the articles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that we aren't redundant, but we're putting things where more or less where they belong. I mean, this whole thing about licensing people who are collectors of junk.
Right.
I mean, just shows you how old this is.
And coasting down the streets. Okay.
I'm telling you where I'm getting hung up on all of this, and it makes it difficult for me. Not that you don't know this, but this has almost reached like a hodgepodge,
It is.
the current bylaws, because things were done over, I don't know how many years.
Probably 3.
Well, I'm not just talking about what the other committee, we're talking about decades
Right.
probably.
Right,
my
we
guess. And there's never been, probably, I don't know how long, I assume, a complete review of it, and also trying to organize it such that it makes sense. So one way it makes sense is what we're talking about, organizing it by, putting it in order that, in the proper sequence, but also adding a chart. But the other thing is that certain provisions, and I'm reading general government, could probably be taken out there and put somewhere else. Although some of it, I'm not quite sure would it still belong, but I'm almost feeling this needs to be the right thing to do, but would be a nightmare for us, and maybe for the town in reviewing, because they want to compare it to the existing is, and I'm just putting this out there as a possibility, because I don't know, I want to know what you think, that the problem would be that it would get, even though we'd be making it less confusing, we'd be taking things out here and there and putting it somewhere else and putting it in the proper sequence, that maybe that will make it difficult for people to follow along and say, well, wait a second, what are you changing here? Because you can't just show the changes that way, because you're moving it to a whole
So
different
this is what you're
article.
saying.
And the general government is a good example
Okay.
of that, and yet I feel that it's.
So I think what I hear you saying is we need to make the changes to the original document, show those changes side by side as step 1, and then come back as step 2 with the whole reorganized document. Once they agree to the changes that were made to the document as it currently exists, and then the reorganization of it would be step 2.
Possibly, but here's where I rely on the two of you because of your experience and positions you've held. I just don't want to create an unnecessary political problem. On the other hand, I certainly would love to have the bylaws that's clear, that people can find things more easily, and that things are where they need to be. It doesn't seem to be overlap, or the functions of the town clerk or select board are divided between 2 or 3 articles. So to me it's a quandary, and if something is too big of a political issue to handle, then maybe it's something that need not be taken on at this point. Make a problem that we could do better without.
Well, I think what I'm saying, if they approve the changes to the text in the same order that it appears now, and then based on the approval at the town meeting, it goes with the caveat that those changes would then be incorporated and reordered. No?
So there are two different things there after you approve the language. Just taking your thought further. One is the order and one is taking something from somewhere else.
Yeah.
For the order, I think, and this is a possibility, I hope it wouldn't be controversial, you could put the if the language has been approved, and everyone say, okay, this is what our town's gonna be governed
Right.
by, and we're bringing these up to date. You could have a resolution taken at the same time as you pass the bylaws, giving, say, the select board the authority to sequence it in a way that makes sense for
That's-
the 21st century.
That's sort of what I was saying,
Yeah.
that it would be a two-step process.
But then there's the other question of whether you include in that second step this thing of moving some stuff around. Although we may want to try to handle some of it now, but I think there's going to be limits to how much you can just take to other, it seems to me that it'd be a limit to how much you can put from like general government somewhere else. I think in general, we should see if that's possible. And here's the way it can be done. It's going to be confusing for people, but what we could say is Article 6, and then just say this paragraph is being rewritten and incorporated into Article 3, Section 2,
Okay.
something like that.
We can try that.
But there may be limits, it just is to getting it to being simple enough.
Right. Because we're talking about a room full of people going through
Yeah.
like 100 pages. And
And they
trying
want-
to follow the conversation is going to be very difficult. And then plus the fact that, and I would think that when we would do what we're proposing as the revisions to the existing bylaws that they would have to approve in step 1, we would also introduce all the new sections that are being developed again to bring us into the 21st century.
It's possible to do it in a 3-step process, right? Okay, I know.
No, go ahead, then.
Well,
We got-
one is you approve the bylaws and don't have a resolution about the order. Second, you come back and say, we would now like to disassemble, Article 6 in general government and put things here that might be easier for people to follow. So at a separate meeting, we've approved other language. They say, oh yeah, well you got that in Article 3 now, which talks about the select board. That makes sense to have some of the responsibilities there, or under the town clerk's responsibilities. And then when that is done, have the town at that part of that second meeting, the town would pass a resolution giving the authority to resequence, giving the authority to the select board.
But then we would have to have then a final step where they would approve the resequence, the final
Do
version.
you think is that, as you understand, would be required?
What I
You
would
can-
suggest is not necessarily two town meetings. The final one has to go to the town meeting, but to have a general informational meeting for the public. Could we do it that way?
Well, that's interesting, because I think that's how other boards work, like the planning board in the whole marijuana thing, developed the policy, and they had a public hearing.
Right?
And then after the public hearing, and if they were incorporating anyone's thoughts, I don't know if they did or not. But then they voted on what was their final plan that they were going to present to the select board and then ultimately to the town.
Right.
So, yeah, I guess
That would kind of go along
Is it
with
doing-
how we,
we would definitely
How
be
we
the
do
cure
that.
for insomnia if we were to have this meeting. You know?
Well, it would put a lot of people to sleep, though.
But, I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, that's one way of getting around
Yeah,
it.
that's what, yeah, right.
But then if people say, I didn't know, I don't have, and then they start objecting, then we have another situation on it.
So what were you suggesting then, that the...
having a public hearing.
Having a public hearing.
And also, it could be recorded and it could go on our channel.
Yeah, but there's still going to be people that come to the meeting and say they want to discuss, they're trying to figure out what's going on in a certain article. Boy, it's going to be a long meeting.
You know what, I
gotta
really
go.
have to go
But this
before the
is-
bus comes.
All right, so the other thing we'll think about, we're gonna do, for the next meeting, we're gonna do the section on the,
Well, we'll
you're
go over the
gonna
changes in
rewrite
4, which I don't think will be...
Yeah, the treasurer collector, but you're gonna rework the town clerk,
Yeah,
and we're going to
go over 5 and
go over
And
5.
say maybe 6.
6, general
yeah.
government. So we'll do 5 and 6 next time.
Okay.
And we'll think about about how we might implement this process.
To
Just think about it.
Improve the process.
No, not just to improve this process, but think moving
Process for the
forward,
town for
how we're
approval.
going to,
Move forward.
how we're going to get this in front of people in a way that makes it comprehensible and,
Yeah, I hate to have it in a several-step process, but we may not have any
Right.
choice for people for following.
because
I think the
yeah.
sequencing is the easy part
Right.
for the town, I think,
Right.
to consider, right? And it's not as if we got anything that invested in it. I mean, we're just saying this will just make it easier to follow, and this makes more sense, and if someone doesn't think so, I'm not sure it really
Well,
matters too much. But what does matter is the actual wording that we're proposing. And
Right.
I'm not sure it could be, if this is a wholesale revision, then I'm not sure that can be done in one night.
In one fell swoop, no, it can't be. I don't see how it can be.
Now,
All right.
and how many, and there can be special town meetings, right?
Yeah, but each of those special town meetings, they cost a lot of money to do that.
Yeah.
That we don't have. I think the idea of a public hearing is a good way of getting those people who are really interested in the subject together to do the review. And that's more or less how they did the master plan. They brought, kind of focus groups together to flesh out and talk about things. I mean, this may be the
And were
way.
changes made as a result of the hearing? Are we going to want to make changes as a result of that? And then, we wouldn't be on.
I think it's
the
more
town-
information.
More,
I think
yeah.
it's information to bring to us. And
Yeah.
Right.
So, if I could just ask,
Yeah.
when is the next meeting?
Okay. Today's the 2nd. I could do next Thursday, if that works for you, or the 16th.
Next Thursday does not work for
Okay.
me.
Then you want to put it off to the 16th? That's
Yeah,
fine.
I'm free in the afternoon, so anytime that, actually,
On May 16th.
yeah, it's not the best week for me, but we probably don't want to wait 3 weeks, I guess. It's not really a good week for me, but I can
And
do
is
it if you'd rather not wait until the
She can't
23rd.
do next week, otherwise we put it off until the 23rd. And we still have to check with
What
Lucy.
about Lucy?
Lucy and, yeah, Virginia. Do you want me to check with them and see what their availability is, if they have a preference for the 16th or the 23rd?
Yeah, I'll go along
Based
with-
on that? we'll-
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
I'll do
can
that.
you-
And I'm free,
Email me?
and,
Yes.
and I'm free on the time,
Okay.
both of those times.
16th or the
My Thursdays have
23rd.
opened up in the afternoon.
They're, how they vote in, you can make you can't make the 16th, you can make the 23rd, you can make it happen the 16th.
Okay.
So we're
Thank
gonna-
you. So
Thank
I'm going
you.
to take a motion to adjourn the meeting.
But just one thing, we're going to take,
Articles 5 and 6
Yes.
next time, okay?
and do we want to throw another article in there? Do we want to do dog kennels? Who was working on that? That was Virginia?
Virginia and I are going to.
Huh?
Do
We
we-
both have a lot of information on that.
Okay, do we want to go ahead and we'll skip over licenses for now, which is really which we've already decided on
Right.
on the
How
title.
we're going to do it.
Yeah,
Okay,
but, so try to do 4 or 5 and just be prepared to discuss 8.
yes.
And 8?
And no, we won't be up to 8 yet, dog
No.
kennels.
What about?
We won't? Oh, so we're just going to do 5 and 6?
Say, and 9.
5, 6, and swimming pools, 9.
5, 6, and 9? Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry to have to.
Okay, no, sorry.
Make a motion to adjourn at
I make a motion to adjourn.
3:39.
So moved.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
3:39, thank you.
Yeah, I agree, we gotta, I don't know, how we can.
I mean, I
move
look at
faster.
myself and I have all of these versions
I
of
know.
the same thing.
Yeah, but I am getting confused with what the changes
So-
are that the committee is, I mean, what they're changing from.
Right, are
No.
we making changes to the changes, or are we making changes to the original document? Is that what you're saying? That is part of the...
Yeah, because I'd rather make changes to the original document, but consider what they, if we can figure out why they, you know,
Yes.
why they made the recommendations, what to do with that, so.
Okay.
These are extra copies?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, there we go.
Okay, all right.
This is a killer.
I know, it's, but I am thinking ahead to the final product, and it's gonna be so hard for to follow. You know, and it is always difficult when you're rewriting everything. It's more difficult than starting from scratch
Yes.
sometimes.